Sunny Sedlock O'Malley. My commercial that comes on AM 630 WMAL has me as Sunny of Sunny Dry. Sunny O'Malley, it sounds like a happy girl. 6 years ago today, I found LDN. And it was the 10th of October, 2002, 2 days after I had been in the doctor's office with my father, in which the hematologist-oncologist told us that he had multiple myeloma. And I will be forever grateful that the doctor told us a lot of things, but what he didn't say was, and by the way, you have a maximum lifespan of 3 years. I thank God that he didn't tell my father that, but I knew exactly what it meant. And my father refused chemotherapy and radiation. He was 87 at the time. And he said, no, I'm not taking that. I don't want it. I've lived a good life and I'm not going down that road. So, you know, what do you do when your loved one is diagnosed with a terminal illness and they're not going to receive any treatment? You grieve and you pray and you get on the internet. And I typed into my browser natural healing of multiple myeloma. And it brought up a lot of websites, many which were not authentic. But there was one that did look remarkably credible. And ironically, it was in Canada. It was called the Center for Integrated Healing. And it wrote about low-dose naltrexone working well for people who had been diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And it also gave a link to learn more information to go to www.lowdosenaltrexone.org, which I did. And that was where I found Dr. Bernard Bahari and low-dose naltrexone and his practice. That's how I found LDN. I was so excited when I found that site because you can tell when you're reading credible information. Dr. Bahari had a very, went into great detail about what LDN works for, what mechanisms might be causing for it to succeed and be able to halt cancer progression and in some cases send it into remission. Dr. Bahari had done such a beautiful website, even with his full curriculum vitae and his experience, his medical license number for New York State. It went on and on. And I was so excited with the information that I read about LDN, stimulating the immune system to help you fight the disease naturally, that I printed out all the information I could, and I went running down to my dad's house. We lived about a block away from each other at the time. And I went running down to him and I said, Dad, I found something, you've got to read this, you know, tell me what you think. And he read it over and he said to me, call this doctor, call him, see what he'll say. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, it's after hours, but I picked up the phone and I dialed anyway and got what I knew would be voicemail and left this very passionate message about I would do anything to save my dear father's life. I just love him so much and can you please help me? And much to my surprise, the following day, Dr. Bahari's nurse called me. And we talked extensively, and she said that doctor wanted to take my father on as a patient, which was just absolutely incredible news for us. And we scheduled a phone consultation, had all of Dad's test results faxed up to Dr. Bahari, and I believe we had our phone consultation on October 15th, and Dr. Bahari must have spent 2 hours with us, if not longer, and absolutely concluded with the test results that he did have multiple myeloma, that it was not in its advanced stage at that time, and that he was very confident LDN was going to work well for him. And we started Dad on the LDN. And we had already scheduled a trip to Maui, Hawaii. And we went on it. We went on it with the LDN. So we took the LDN all the way to Maui. He took for a 3-week trip there. And when he came back, the most amazing thing, and God knows I did a lot of reading and a lot of praying during the time, he turned to me and he said, you know, I think I'm beginning to feel better. And it was like, oh my goodness. 3 weeks to a month later, he said he was starting to feel better. Yep. And it was just, oh my goodness, this is the prayer, you know, this is what I'm praying for. And then it was, but you know, let's just pray that it really works. And 6 months later, he had a follow-up blood test to check the IgA lambda monoclonal levels. And they ran a whole panel, and I couldn't tell you all the letters and numbers on it. But no disease progression 6 months later. He was absolutely no worse off than he was when he was diagnosed. So we were elated. And he felt good. He felt great.
What was his dose?
4.5 milligram nightly between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. And that was very easy. The little pill, you know, you just swallow it with water at night. And he slept well with it. He had no side effects whatsoever, not even what am I saying? Not amnesia, but insomnia.
Right.
Insomnia sometimes goes with the introduction of LDN. But he slept like a baby, was feeling good, eating well, great appetite, active, still active and doing things. And, well, to get to the point, a year and a half later, he had one of those, every 6 months he'd have a follow-up, and at the year and a half later point, he was in remission. And that, yes, at age 89, in remission. And so, you know, we were so overjoyed that LDN was working. And he felt good, continued on. When he joined the Lord at the age of 91, on March 20th, 2006, that was because a blood clot went to his lung a couple months earlier. And it started what I would call just a lot of, how do I even say, breathing issues and respiratory failure. And that's really what took him, and what I could tell you, but I'm so excited about being able to say, is that he lived every day and enjoyed it. He wasn't sick. He lived his life and did it his way. And there was, you know, no, the terrible side effects that go with chemotherapy and radiation, there was none of that. He felt great. And he did not die of multiple myeloma. And that's, you know, what can you say about that? That's why I do the things I do. I coordinate the low-dose naltrexone conferences. I've been involved with the conferences really since the first conference that Dr. Gluck organized in New York City in 2005. And there was a call for a coordinator at the end of that conference, and I said, well, would you all be willing to come to Washington, D.C.? And they said, yes, we'd be willing. I said, because if you'll come to Washington, I'll coordinate your conference. And it was announced right then and there that I would be coordinating the conference. And we held it, Cindy, you were there, and it was at the National Institutes of Health. And we had a wonderful conference, wonderful speakers. And last year, it was at Vanderbilt University, and I co-coordinated with Brenda Powell. And this year, I knew that the California contingent would be very unhappy if we didn't come to one of the major cities in California. At the University of Southern California Health Sciences campus, and we'll be in the Meyer Auditorium, which holds 250 people. So we wanted to be able to really have a large group come. When I found it from my father and I saw how wonderfully it did for him, I was just overjoyed, and when I saw that it had a very positive effect for people with chronic fatigue syndrome. And I had been diagnosed with chronic fatigue not that long before my father was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And it was a dreadful matter where I wanted to sleep more often than not, and I had no energy. And I had brain fog and a lot of things that all of us human beings would be a lot better off without.